Hi, today's session is about literature reviews, one of the most important components for research projects. So if you have decided on your general topic of interest and you have decided on the general research question that you're interested in, you have to go for a literature review process, which enables you to focus your questions more, contextualize your project, and inform you further about what has been done and what still needs to be done. So this is a component that you can run, but you cannot hide from if you are going to conduct a research. So let's start with this. Unfortunately, I know that many times, particularly with students who are starting off on this journey or junior researchers who are working on early stages of their research program, the literature review comes with a particular Keanu Reeves mood. So that being said, I need to remind you that you can always look at the bright side. Thank God that you are not using these. Anybody who's my generation or a little bit even quite younger, who had the privilege and luxury of working with stacks at libraries, will know that at the present time, literature reviews are a blessing and a breath of fresh air in comparison to older days. Particularly speaking, it's not rocket science, so don't worry about it. Everybody conducts literature reviews. You have been conducting literature reviews for other projects or other courses as they were called essays or reports about a particular topic. So in a way, you've already, you come to this with a lot of experience. It's not rocket science, and let's see what are the aspects that we need to look at and things that we need to consider as we do this. So what is a literature review? A literature review is a critical analysis of related literature in a particular topic of interest. And the reason why I underlined critical, because it is not a top level overview or a general summary about a particular topic. It is a critical, in-depth analysis of what has been done and what is still missing. It's usually presented before the methodology section. It helps contextualize your research project within the bigger body of literature. It allows you to say, this is what has been done, this is what's still missing, and this is where I come in to fit with my project. It helps you as a researcher tell the story and, most importantly, provide the real justification needed. So if your literature review is saying that a particular topic, this is what we know about it, extensive research has been completed and we know everything about it, there's no justification for you to really conduct your project. Rather, you need to say, this is everything, or not everything, this is what has been done, these are the key findings from previous literature. However, there is still a level of ambiguity or missing component or a new context that has arisen which doesn't align with previous work, and hence I need to follow up with this. So it helps you justify why you're doing your project. It definitely helps you refine and focus your initial research question. So your literature review, we come to it with a question, but the question is general. Our literature review helps us refine it. Now, another important thing is what literature reviews are not, because with experience, I've noticed a lot of misconceptions about what literature reviews are. They are not a summary of everything and anything. You are not doing a systematic review of the whole body of literature regarding your topic. You are selecting, and this is one of the, if I'm a systematic reviewer, I can tell you that this is a weakness in literature reviews. It is biased in your selection. You will select things that talk to you as a researcher. You are somebody, like the literature review, you will select the articles that help your argument with and against to allow you to reach the conclusion and the need or informing your research. you're not conducting a full systematic review about the topic. You are conducting a focused literature review about a topic that helps you contextualize and inform your research question. That's it. It is not a summary of previously published research. I've seen many literature reviews, especially again with fresh graduates or young researchers, and mostly with new students in research, where it is conducted in such a way that each article is taken, a summary is completed in one paragraph, and you jump to the other one, and then you jump to the third. You put them in an organized progression, and honestly, that does not provide a literature review. A literature review is, as I said in the previous, with the previous slide, it is a critical analysis to justify and juxtapose what has been done before to lead for your topic. It is not a historical account or narration of the topic. You're not conducting a regular report where you're covering or informing the reader about a particular topic. This is what we've always worked with when it comes to reports or essays for most of our courses. You are you're taking a course about special needs education, and you are expected to conduct or complete a report by the end of the course about special needs in a particular, with a particular focus, whether it be with a particular grade level, a particular context, or whether it is about strategies or challenges. We go out, we collect articles, and we provide a historical account or an overview about what is done. That's a report. Literature reviews go one step beyond. They are not one-sided argument. Again, going back to the first point over here, they're not a summary of everything and anything. They are biased based on what your interest is and where you're telling the story, but at the same time, they are not one-sided argument. And this is where we as researchers have to put our bias aside. I'm totally for technology integration in my educational practices. I cannot conduct a literature review that only brings the positives. I have to balance it with what are the skeptics saying about this issue, what are the concerns, what are the challenges, and hence where I need to go. A successful literature review, things to keep in mind. First off, you have to demonstrate that you have a solid understanding about the topic. You're not expected to be the all-informed expert about everything in this topic, but you have to demonstrate that you are knowledgeable. So again, for example, if I'm talking about technology integration, I cannot present my literature review with an understanding or with a focus on the technical aspect without talking about the pedagogy. I need to show that I understand the topic, and there's a lot of work that has been completed regarding pedagogical use of technology. So I have to show that I understand what I'm talking about. And that's why I would never do a successful literature review myself if I would be talking about psychology. I'm not a psychologist. I cannot conduct a proper literature review. It will take me ages. I'll have to study all over again in order to conduct a proper literature review about psychology. Another thing, you need to reflect that you've read a significant body of relevant literature. Your literature review cannot be conducted with 5 articles. You need to bring forth a variety of readings, and so that you demonstrate that this literature review is a substantive one and not a top-level overview of the topic. You need to present key terms and definitions whenever needed. This is very important, particularly in our social sciences arena. If you are a researcher conducting research in a scientific discipline, H2O is always H2O. If you're talking about temperature, you're always talking about temperature. If you are talking about, you will need to specify whether you're using Celsius or Fahrenheit or Kelvin, but there isn't a lot of controversy regarding terminology. But in our social sciences arena, there's a lot of controversy, not controversy, but terminology is not clearly cut. A particular term might have different definitions, and I'll take the blended learning term as an example. Blended learning can mean a mix of face-to-face and online. It can mean a mix of asynchronous and synchronous within online. It can mean the whole 9 yards. It can mean blended learning with different strategies. So depending on which definition you are interested in, you might be using, or you're focusing on, you might be using a terminology that might be misleading for others if they don't know exactly what you're talking about. So whenever there is a term that there is not controversy, but there are multiple definitions about, you can present that while this term has different definitions, the definition that will be used in this project focuses on X, Y, and Z. So that's extremely important. Provide a critical analysis of the topic under discussion. And this I've mentioned previously. So if I'm talking about blended learning, I need to highlight the different perspectives of advantages, disadvantages, highlight what has been done, and present it not as a small lens perspective. I have to provide the nuances that the literature bring to the table. Organize your narrative in a clear structure with sections and subsections. On many occasions, I've had students, or students mostly, and I don't blame them, but this, especially that this is a new task that they are working with. Sometimes individuals present the literature review as a series of paragraphs that go one after the other. What applies to good writing techniques in any report or any project applies in literature reviews also. When you are writing a report, it's very helpful to have sections and subsections. This applies over here. It doesn't just organize your ideas, it organizes the ideas of the reader and allows them to follow your thought process as they are reading it. Make sure you use something of a structure. Sometimes individuals would like to start from the general to the specific. Sometimes a writer's style is to start from small to big, but use a progression that makes sense to you and the reader, and take your colleagues' opinions. Ask others to read or skim through so that you know whether it is clearly structured for them. Attend to language and writing style, definitely, and make sure you use correct referencing. I will be recording another video that talks about referencing in particular. I will focus on APA style. I'm not a librarian myself or a knowledge management expert myself, but there are basics that you need to keep in mind as you are writing with APA style and providing the listing at the end. The reason why I'll focus on APA, because in our education field, APA is the most commonly used. Important tips to keep in mind. Stay focused. Keep it manageable by focusing your scope. So don't go and try to cover everything. Focus it based on your subject and the topic of your research. You can focus by the topic, by the time range, by the country, by the grade level if that's part of what you are focusing on. You can focus on particular strategies. So you're talking about teaching strategies that help students with special needs, but you are focusing more on, you can focus it on student-centered strategies rather than teacher one-way like lectures and something like that. So in your framing the introduction of your article, you can frame and put the scope of your topic so that when you come to the literature review, you will be focusing on these sections. Stay organized, as I said. Make sure your work on the side, not just writing it. On the side, keep your work organized. If you are somebody who works with hard copies, use that, it's fine. If you're somebody who's very good with the technology folders and whatnot, use that, but stay organized. It's very easy to think at the start of your literature review that when I download an article and save it as is on my desktop, I'll remember what it is about later on. Try to use a nomenclature that is of help for you. It could be the author and the year, the title and the year. Put it in a folder that relates to the literature review for this research project, whether it is by subject area, topic like technology versus, I don't know, it's up to you, but the organization will come in to be very helpful later on, because it's very easy to think you'll remember, but 2 weeks down the road when you're working with 3 other courses and 3 other projects, or when you are as a researcher working with multiple projects, you'll tend to forget. Keep it relevant. Make sure that you use what is relevant directly to your topic, but sometimes you don't find it. So for example, if you are talking about a topic that is very new and interesting, it will be very hard for you to find research that relates to it. Let's say at the start of the COVID time, there was no research that relates to burnout with an online global pandemic teaching. But there were a lot of articles that were, or research published and available that relates to teaching in online courses under crisis. So for example, with refugees, or with individuals who have long-term hospital stays, or with, I don't know, there were a lot of things we can, homeschooling was a very good literature area to learn from or to bring forth. But the important thing is when we bring this, we highlight the relevance. So even if you are starting with a new topic, sort of, that there isn't a lot about, or sometimes you are talking about a project that really is a long-standing topic, but there are nuances that are changing. There's nothing wrong in bringing an article or literature from a linked or relevant field that is clear for you but might not be clear for others. Make sure you discuss that relevance. So if I'm talking about, if I take the example of the COVID situation, if I'm bringing something from, let's say, long stay hospital stays, or if I'm bringing from refugees and online learning, I would need to highlight what is the similarity, what are the similarities. It's something that individuals, this is not the normal environment that the student is originally living in. There is some trauma that's taking place. There is not knowing about the future and what the future will bring, which all related to the COVID, but I need to highlight it in my discussion. Keep it current, and this is a question that is, or an issue that always come up. Use current articles, but that doesn't mean you do not use classical research or classical articles, but keep it minimal and only if it is important. So is there a perfect number? Use articles from the last 10 years? I can't tell you that, because there are many things that relate to that decision. If I'm talking about technology integration, 10 years might be too old. If I'm talking about nature of science and teaching of nature of science, 15 years might be adequate even, not old enough. So you be the judge, and this relates to the previous point that I raised. You need to be informed about the topic that you are working with. So Make sure you're using current articles, but if there is a research article that is classical and very important for the topic itself, it might be an article that started a big debate, or it might be an article that or research that really opened the door for new way of thought. Definitely make use of it, because if you don't, you might be questioned about, do you really know what you're talking about if you didn't reference that? So sometimes we need to bring some classics in, but we try to make it as relevant as possible. One way to actually start your literature review is to work with literature maps. It's up to you. This is not a one-way process. Each person has their own style, but this is a good way of organizing the map earlier before you delve deeper into writing the literature review. It can be an outline, it can be sticky notes here and there. It's up to you, but this is one way that might make sense. This is an example about a topic and how you can conduct the literature review for it. And this is from John Creswell's educational research textbook, one of the most used and cited textbooks when it comes to research methodologies. So the need for teaching programs to be culturally responsive. As you are searching the literature, you might find, and this is very contextualized, you want to talk about study abroad programs and US programs. And then you start focusing on each. So within study abroad programs, there's attitude towards the study abroad, but there's also within this predominantly English speaking countries. But also there's the personal insights of pre-service teachers. You need to further study non-English speaking cultures, and that's where the question is coming from based on this. Another thing, possible improvements can be completed, and then US programs, I can look at personal insights also for pre-service teachers. You can see the parallel aspect over here. You can look at conventional programs within the US, and then you can look at cross-cultural programs which would connect with the study abroad. Is this the only way to create such a literature map? No. Somebody might take the same articles and lay them out in a totally different way. It's up to you. You can take this and lay them out as personal insights, and under that put personal insights, study abroad, personal insights, study US programs. It is up to you, as long as you have a structure and an organization that helps you put things out and work out your literature review, and helps the reader as they later on, based on a better organization on your side. Another way to do this is with a different approach that was also presented in John Creswell. A map may look something like this. It can be study abroad programs, US programs. Within this, you can put the articles, and within that, you can put the articles. There are some articles that you might find that fall in the middle. So you might come up with a circle that brings them together. It is up to you to decide how you want to present it. Every one of us works in a different manner, but that being said, do what works for you, while remembering that it is a story. It's a story that aims at justifying and supporting and informing your research questions. You have to tell about what you're doing in this research. So it's a story that you're gonna tell. Tell it the way that makes sense to you, but keep it organized, keep it informative so that the reader can understand, because that's the final objective, for the reader to follow your ideas, to follow your train of thought, and decide that yes, the research project that you're working on is definitely needed and is of relevance and importance. I hope this was helpful for you. And if you have any particular questions or suggestions for other topics that you'd like me to offer an overview about, feel free to send me a note.